58-year-old William Bill Harrison stood in the barn he'd built with his own hands 20 years ago, running his weathered fingers along the neck of his prize mare, Duchess. The conversation with his son Robert still echoed in his ears, like a death sentence, each word cutting deeper than any physical wound he'd ever endured. "Pa, it's time for you to clear out," Robert had said, not even bothering to look up from the legal documents spread across the kitchen table. "Martha and I need the space for our growing family, and frankly, having you round is making things uncomfortable." 20 years Bill had worked this small horse ranch outside of Abilene, Kansas. 20 years since his wife Helen had died giving birth to Robert, leaving Bill to raise the boy alone while building a business that could support them both. He'd sacrificed everything for his son, turning down offers of remarriage, refusing opportunities to expand elsewhere. Also, Robert would have a stable home and a legacy to inherit. Now that same son, married for barely 2 years to Martha Collins, was throwing him out like an unwanted piece of furniture. Subscribe to our channel to follow this heartbreaking story of betrayal and discover how one man's devastating loss became his greatest adventure. Bill had always known Martha didn't like him. From the moment Robert had brought her home, she'd made it clear that she found Bill's simple ways beneath her station. Martha came from money, her father owning the largest bank in Abilene, and she'd never hidden her disdain for what she called common horse trading. "You can take whatever personal belongings fit in a wagon," Robert had continued, his voice as cold as a winter wind. "But the horses, the land, the buildings, they all stay here. Martha's father is helping us expand the operation, and we can't have any complications. That's what his own son had called him. Bill closed his eyes and pressed his forehead against Duchess's warm neck, breathing in the familiar smell of horse and hay that had been his comfort for 2 decades. How had it come to this when had the little boy who used to ride on his shoulders turned into this stranger who could look him in the eye and destroy his world without a flicker of remorse? "I raised you better than this, son," Bill had said quietly, his voice thick with disappointment. "You raised me to be practical," Robert had replied, "and practically speaking, this ranch isn't big enough for all of us. Martha's pregnant again, and we need the main house. You can find a room in town, maybe get work at the livery stable." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how Bill responds to this ultimate betrayal and witness the decision that will change his life forever. Bill had walked out of that kitchen without another word, knowing that anything he said would only make the situation worse. But now, standing in the barn, surrounded by the horses he'd raised and trained, he felt something harder than hurt settling in his chest. It was resolve. If Robert wanted him gone, then gone he would be. But Bill Harrison had never been a man to do things halfway. He spent the next 3 hours moving through the barn and pastures, making a mental inventory of every animal on the property. Duchess, the prize mare; Thunder, the young stallion with championship bloodlines; Sweet Lady, the gentle mare perfect for children. 16 horses in total, each one representing years of careful breeding, training, and love. Robert thought he was inheriting a going concern, a profitable business he could expand with his father-in-law's money. But Robert had forgotten one crucial detail. Every single horse on the property was registered in Bill's name, not the ranch's. They were his personal property, bought and paid for with his own money, trained by his own hands. If his son wanted the ranch, he could have it. But the horses were leaving with Bill. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to discover Bill's incredible plan and witness one of the most satisfying acts of rebellion in Western history. That evening, Bill sat in the small office attached to the barn, writing letters by lamplight. The first was to Tom Bradley, a horse trader in Denver who had been trying to buy Bill's breeding stock for years. The second was to the railroad office in Abilene, arranging for a livestock car on the next westbound train. The third was to an old friend named Jake Morrison who ran a trading post on the Colorado frontier. Each letter represented a bridge burned, a connection to his old life severed. But with each word he wrote, Bill felt lighter, as if he was shedding the weight of 20 years of disappointment and misplaced loyalty. The last letter was the hardest to write. It was addressed to Robert, and it was both an explanation and a goodbye. "Son," he wrote, You asked me to clear out, and I'm honoring your request. But since every horse on this property belongs to me personally, they'll be clearing out too. I've sold the entire herd to Tom Bradley in Denver for $12,000. Enough to start over somewhere new. The ranch you're inheriting has good grass, solid buildings, and fine fencing. What it doesn't have is the foundation of a horse operation, because that foundation is walking out the door with me. I hope Martha's father's money can buy you what 20 years of my work built, but I doubt it. Your disappointed father, William Harrison. Bill sealed the letter and placed it on the kitchen table, where Robert would find it in the morning. Then, he went back to the barn to begin the heartbreaking task of preparing his horses for their journey west. Remember to subscribe to our channel to see how Bill's dramatic departure unfolds and discover what awaits him on the untamed frontier. 3 days later, Bill stood on the platform of the Abilene train station, watching as his 16 horses were loaded into a specially equipped livestock car. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the tracks, and a cool October breeze carried the promise of winter and change. He hadn't seen Robert since leaving the letter, but he'd heard plenty from the neighbors about the commotion at the ranch when his son discovered that his inheritance had literally walked away in the night. Martha had reportedly thrown a screaming fit that could be heard 3 farms over, and her father had ridden out from town looking like he'd swallowed a rattlesnake. Mr. Harrison called out Jake Murphy, the station master. Your car's all loaded and ready. You sure about this trip? Colorado Territory's mighty wild country for a man traveling alone. Bill touched the brim of his hat and smiled. Jake, I've been playing it safe for 20 years. And where did it get me? Maybe it's time to try something different. As the train pulled away from Abilene, Bill watched the familiar landscape of Kansas roll past his window and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Excitement about the future. For the first time since Helen's death, he wasn't building for someone else or sacrificing for someone else's dreams. This journey was his alone. Subscribe to our channel to follow Bill's incredible journey west and see how leaving everything behind opened doors to adventures he never imagined. The trip to Denver took 3 days, and Bill spent most of that time in the livestock car with his horses, talking to them and keeping them calm during the long, noisy journey. These animals had been his constant companions for years, and now they were his partners in this new adventure. Tom Bradley met Bill at the Denver station with a crew of experienced horsemen and a check for the full agreed-upon amount. Bill, these are the finest horses I've seen in 10 years of trading, Tom said as he examined Duchess and Thunder. You sure you want to sell them all? I could use a partner in this business. Bill shook his head. Tom, these horses represent my old life, and I'm starting fresh. But I appreciate the offer, and I'll remember it if my new plans don't work out. With $12,000 in his pocket and nothing but his saddle, personal gear, and a strong horse named Scout that he'd kept from the sale, Bill set out for the Colorado frontier. His destination was Silver Brook, a small settlement near the mining country where his friend Jake Morrison ran a trading post and served as the unofficial mayor of a community that barely existed on any map. The ride from Denver to Silver Brook took 5 days through some of the most beautiful and dangerous country Bill had ever seen. Snow-capped mountains rose like cathedral spires around him, and vast valleys stretched out in all directions, empty of everything except wildlife and possibility. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see how Bill's arrival in Silver Brook changes both his destiny and the fate of an entire frontier community. Silver Brook turned out to be even smaller than Bill had expected, consisting of Jake's trading post, a small saloon, a blacksmith shop, and perhaps a dozen rough cabins scattered along the banks of a clear mountain stream. But what the settlement lacked in size, it made up for in spirit. Bill Harrison, Jake Morrison bellowed as Bill rode up to the trading post. You crazy old coot, you actually did it. You actually came west. Jake was a bear of a man with a gray beard and eyes that sparkled with intelligence and humor. He'd been Bill's sergeant during the Civil War, and their friendship had endured through 20 years of separation and different paths. Jake, you said there might be opportunities out here for a man with capital and experience, Bill said. dismounting from Scout and stretching muscles that ached from the long ride. I'm hoping you weren't just blowing smoke. Opportunities, Jake laughed. Bill, this whole territory is nothing but opportunities for someone with the vision to see them. Come inside and let me tell you about what we're building here. Over coffee and Jake's wife Mary's excellent venison stew, Bill learned about the challenges and potential of life on the Colorado frontier. The settlement was growing slowly but steadily, attracting miners, ranchers, and homesteaders who were drawn by the promise of land and freedom. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to discover the incredible opportunity that awaits Bill in Silver Brook and see how his broken heart became the foundation for an empire. The thing is, Jake explained, we've got plenty of people wanting to start ranches and farms, but no one with the knowledge to help them succeed. These folks are city people mostly, or miners who struck it rich and want to try their hand at agriculture. They need someone who knows horses, cattle, and land management. What are you suggesting? Bill asked, though he could already see where this conversation was heading. I'm suggesting you use that $12,000 to buy land and start the biggest, most successful ranch operation in the territory, Jake said with a grin. But more than that, I'm suggesting you become a teacher, a mentor to all these greenhorns who are trying to make a go of it out here. Mary Morrison, a practical woman with kind eyes, spoke up from the kitchen. Bill, this territory needs experienced people who are willing to share their knowledge. You could build something here that would benefit everyone, not just yourself. Bill considered their words as he looked out the window at the vast expanse of untouched land, stretching toward the mountains. Back in Kansas, he'd spent 20 years building something for his son's future. Here, he could build something for his own future and for the future of a community that actually wanted his knowledge and experience. Jake, Bill said finally, show me this land you think I should buy. Let's see what kind of empire an old horse trader can build when he's building it for himself. Remember to subscribe to our channel to see how Bill's decision to start over transforms him from a rejected father into a frontier legend. 2 years after Bill Harrison had ridden away from his son's betrayal, the Harrison Ranch had become the most successful operation in the Colorado Territory. What had started as a single land purchase of 2,000 acres had grown into a 10,000-acre empire that included cattle, horses, and the most advanced agricultural techniques west of the Mississippi. But more importantly, Bill had become exactly what Jake Morrison had envisioned, a mentor and teacher to the dozens of families who had followed his example and established their own spreads throughout the valley. Mr. Harrison called out young Peter Kowalski, a Polish immigrant who had started his own small ranch with Bill's guidance. The cattle you helped me select are thriving, and I think I'm ready to expand my herd. Bill smiled as he dismounted from Scout, now a grizzled veteran of countless rides through the mountain country. At 60, Bill was in better physical condition than he'd been in Kansas, hardened by the challenges of frontier life and energized by the purpose he'd found in building something meaningful. Peter, expansion is good, but smart expansion is better, Bill replied, walking over to examine the young man's cattle. Show me your books, and let's make sure your finances can support the growth you're planning. Subscribe to our channel to follow the incredible conclusion of Bill's journey and see how his rejection became the foundation for a legacy that would last generations. The Harrison Ranch had become more than just a successful business operation. It was a training ground for new ranchers, a source of high-quality breeding stock for the entire territory, and the unofficial headquarters for what people were calling the Silver Brook Cooperative, a network of ranchers who shared knowledge, resources, and mutual support. Every month, Bill hosted a gathering at his ranch where experienced and novice ranchers could share ideas, discuss challenges, and learn from each other's successes and failures. These meetings had become legendary throughout the territory, drawing participants from as far away as Wyoming and New Mexico. Bill, said Jake Morrison as they watched the latest group of ranchers discussing cattle breeding techniques, you've created something special here. This isn't just about making money anymore, is it? No, Bill agreed, watching a young widow named Sarah Chen take notes. As an experienced rancher explained water management, it's about building a community where people help each other succeed. instead of tearing each other down. The irony wasn't lost on Bill that he'd found the family he'd always wanted, not through blood relations, but through shared purpose and mutual respect. These ranchers looked to him not because they had to, but because they chose to value his experience and guidance. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to witness the emotional moment when Bill's past catches up with his present and see how success changes everything. It was during one of these monthly gatherings that Bill's past finally caught up with his present. He was demonstrating proper horse training techniques when Jake Morrison approached with a troubled expression. "Bill, you've got visitors," Jake said quietly. "Your son Robert and his wife are here, and they're asking to see you." Bill felt his stomach tighten, but he finished his demonstration before walking toward the ranch house where Robert and Martha waited on the front porch. His son looked older, thinner, and there was something desperate in his eyes that Bill had never seen before. "Hello, Pa," Robert said, his voice lacking the arrogance that Bill remembered from their last encounter. "Robert, Martha," Bill nodded politely but didn't invite them to sit down. "What brings you to Colorado?" Martha, who had always been perfectly groomed and fashionably dressed, now looked tired and worn. Her expensive clothes couldn't hide the fact that she'd been crying recently. "Pa, we need to talk," Robert said. "Things back in Kansas, they haven't gone well. We lost the ranch 6 months ago, and Martha's father, well, he cut us off when we couldn't pay back the money he'd invested." Bill felt no satisfaction in this news, only a deep sadness for opportunities wasted and lessons learned too late. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to see how Bill responds to his son's desperation and discover whether forgiveness is possible after such deep betrayal. "We heard about what you've built here," Martha said, speaking for the first time since their arrival, "about how successful you've become." Robert wanted to come and, "Well, you were hoping I'd bail you out," Bill finished quietly. "You were hoping that the man you threw away like garbage would now rescue you from the consequences of your choices." Robert's face flushed with shame. "Pa, I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong to treat you the way I did. But we're family, and I was hoping." "Family," Bill repeated, the word carrying more weight than Robert probably realized. "Robert, for 2 years I've been surrounded by people who treat me like family. They respect my knowledge, value my experience, and appreciate what I bring to their lives. They've shown me what real family looks like." Bill gestured toward the group of ranchers who were still engaged in animated discussions about cattle and horses. "These people chose to make me part of their lives, just like I chose to make myself part of theirs. That's what family really means, son. It's not about blood or obligation. It's about choice and mutual respect." Robert's shoulders sagged with defeat. "So you won't help us?" Bill was quiet for a long moment, studying his son's face and weighing his words carefully. "Robert, I'll make you the same offer I make everyone who comes here wanting to start over. You can homestead a section of land in the valley, and I'll teach you what you need to know to make it successful. But you'll start from nothing. Just like everyone else, you'll work 18-hour days. You'll make mistakes, and you'll have to prove yourself through effort, not expectation." Remember to subscribe to our channel to discover Robert's choice and see how this frontier became the place where broken families could be rebuilt on stronger foundations. Robert looked at Martha, who was staring at the ground with obvious horror at the thought of starting over as homesteaders. But something in his father's tone, something in the respect Bill commanded from the people around him, seemed to reach through Robert's pride and touch the man he could become. "What about Martha?" Robert asked. "What about our children?" "Martha can make her own choice," Bill replied. "But the children are welcome here regardless. This territory needs young people who are willing to work hard and build something lasting." Martha looked up with tears in her eyes. "I can't live like this," she said to Robert. "I won't be a pioneer woman living in some cabin. My father may have cut us off, but I still have cousins in St. Louis who will take me in." Robert nodded slowly, and Bill could see his son making the same kind of choice Bill had made 2 years earlier. The choice between comfort and purpose, between the easy path and the right path. "Pa," Robert said finally, "if you're willing to teach me, I'm willing to learn. But I need you to know that I understand now what I threw away when I chose Martha's comfort over your wisdom." Bill extended his hand to his son, not as a gesture of automatic forgiveness, but as an offer of partnership between two men who were willing to work for something better. "Welcome to Colorado territory, son," Bill said. "Now let's see if you've got what it takes to be a real rancher." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the American frontier that prove the strongest families are built not on blood alone, but on shared values, mutual respect, and the courage to start over when life demands it. 5 years later, as Bill Harrison stood on the porch of his ranch house watching his son work with a group of new homesteaders, he reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this place. Robert had indeed proven himself, building a successful operation and earning the respect of the community through hard work and humility. Martha had returned to St. Louis as promised, but Robert's children spent their summers on the frontier, learning from their grandfather the values that really mattered. The Silverbrook Valley had become home to over 100 families, all connected by the cooperative spirit that Bill had helped establish. And at the center of it all was the man who had been thrown away by his own son, only to become the patriarch of a community that chose to value his wisdom and experience. Sometimes, Bill reflected, the best thing that can happen to a man is to be forced to start over, to discover that his worth isn't determined by what others think of him, but by what he chooses to build with his own hands and heart.